What's up, Pirates? Wraith and Jim here with Awaken TCG, and today we have a brand new video for you guys. We're going to be going over all of the great cards that came with OP05. I'm sorry for red and green. There were no big meta-defining cards or any cards that like we see in the top tier 1 of decks, and so we're not going to go over those two colors, but everything else does have some great cards that we are going to see, and so let's go ahead and get right into it. All right, so we're going to go ahead and go over every single one of the cards. As you can see here on the screen, we're going to go ahead and start off here with the great blue color. Today we have Borsalino and Houndblaze. So this Borsalino here in particular, it's a great card and a great addition to blue because not only do we get a big body, it's also a good bottom deck. So it's basically like a mini Mihawk, you could say. So you don't have to fully invest all your Dawn to playing one character that can potentially be dealt with right away. You can play this at 7 and still have 3 Dawn, for other purposes, right? You can do different things. And then obviously Houndblaze here, it's a 2-drop event. It's going to go ahead and give one of your leaders or characters 3,000 power and bottom deck a 2 or less, which is insane value. Not only do you get 3,000 attack for 2 of your Dawn, which would only originally be 2,000 Dawn or 2,000 power. You also get a bottom deck effect that just works so perfectly in with Sakazuki. And I think these two paired with everything else that is coming with OP05 make Sakazuki such a force to be reckoned with, and and the best deck in the OP05 meta as we know it right now. What are your thoughts on these?
Yeah, so let's just go break down Borsalino first. So yeah, towards the start of the meta, if you look at any of the early Sakazuki decks, they were running like the 10-drop Kaidos and the 9-drop Mihawks that were taking up your entire turn. Which just in a black deck did not make as much sense because although this Borsalino only removes a 4, obviously you're black, so you can turn that into upwards of a 10. So basically, this card is just going to be it makes a lot more sense in a deck with a lot of cost minus effects because you'll get, like, let's compare this to Mihawk. This costs 2 less than Mihawk, and it's only a 1k less stat line from 9 to 8. Mihawk was bottom decking a 7, but pretty much it was both of these cards are bottom decking anything with the cards like Ice Age and other cost minus effects. So you are saving 2 Dawn to basically bottom deck the same thing, only for a 1k less body. This card just makes so much more sense than Sakazuki. It's not a 4 of because it does brick a bit, but it is going to be the, I think, biggest body in these decks. That is also going to just have one of the best removals later into the game.
Yeah, straight up. That card is so good. And then Houndblaze being even better, in my opinion. It just allows you to have so many ways to get rid of any units that are present on the board and make Sakazuki such a board control monster that and for that reason alone, it is the best deck in OP05. So we're going to go ahead and jump right over to the next slide of cards. So we have purple. I'm going to go ahead and let Jim take this one as he is the purple color player. He's definitely been playing purple since OP01, and so he knows a lot more. He's going to tell us some about these cards.
Yeah, so I have been a purple player since before OP01 came out. Went to the super pre-release, got myself 2 of the purple Kaido starter decks. I was a Kaido main throughout set 1. Obviously, set 2 and onward, that deck and purple in general did not really fall into a great spot, which was disappointing. But as I'm sure a ton of you know by now, purple is in a fantastic spot due to the new purple Luffy leader and the new ST10 starter deck, which gave a ton of great purple cards. And these are by far I think the most impactful. Surprisingly, the new purple decks, they run a ton of the old cards. OP01 cards, starter deck 4 cards that have been in the game for a while. There aren't many of the new cards that are making like too much of a splash. These 2 in particular, though, they do, and they are going to be these big meta breakers for purple that we are talking about. First up, we have Eustace Captain Kidd. Going to be a 5/6 blocker with 1,000 counter. Probably didn't need that. But his effect is going to be on your turn once per turn whenever you return Dawn back to the Dawn deck. So any Dawn minus effects, this card is just going to get a Dawn back from the Dawn deck as active. So not only does it negate that Dawn minus effect, it sets it to active. So basically your Dawn minus effects translate to, I play with an extra active Dawn this turn. This card is disgusting. It probably didn't even need blocker. It does get removed in the Sakazuki matchup usually before it does anything a lot of the time, but it is a massive threat that's going to get you a ton of value throughout the game and a staple in almost every purple deck that has down minus effects going forward.
Yeah, I mean the card it speaks for itself, right? It's a good 5/6, 6,000 power body, and then being able to play with one extra Dawn every single turn because Pluffy has a lot of options. Red Purple Luffy as well has a lot of Dawn minus options where you can play a card and then just get an extra one Dawn as active, which is pretty insane. You know, you can swing extra hard that turn with your leader, or play an extra card that turn depending on how many Dawn you're at, which I think is pretty huge, to be honest. It gives you an advantage where there's none there to begin with, right? So it's just a great card to have on board. And then what about this Luffy here?
So I saw it, I was like, oh my god, this card is ass. Dom minus 10 is just way too big of an ask. And it kind of is. And mostly all purple decks, except for one that actually has a not terrible matchup into the best deck in the format, Blueback Sakazuki. I am talking about specifically the starter deck, Red Purple Luffy. Can run this card at around a 3 of, and do work with it. So basically, the reason this works, right, is because if you play this card on 10 Dawn, the leader can get one Dawn active for free to activate this 10 drops effect. For those of you that don't know what the effect is, let's go over it. So on play, Dawn minus 10. All of your Dawn back to the deck. And then basically you get a free turn without passing to your opponent. So you go pass turn, and then you're passing to yourself. So you draw a card, you get 2 Dawn, right, etc. So that is obviously why it's so expensive. It is an insane effect. But that's not all. It's activate main once per turn. You can rest a Dawn and then get another active Dawn. So basically just translating to getting you a rested Dawn, but you have to have an active Dawn to do so. So this works in Purple Luffy because if I place on 10 Dawn, use leader effect, tap 1, I'm on 2 Dawn, okay, pass to myself, I'm on 4 Dawn, use this effect, I'm on 5 Dawn, and next turn, even though I Dawn minus 10, I'm on 7 Dawn still, which is insanely strong. And now I have a 12k on board that got to basically swing Rush, draw me a card, and have my leader swing twice. This card is going to be a problem, and it is going to be a fantastic card for sneaking out games, especially in these Red Purple Luffy decks that run the 1-cost unblockable event from the starter deck. Swinging 15k unblockable is going to be unbeatable.
Yeah.
And this card is going to be a problem.
Yeah, 100%. It sounds like it definitely has its, niche spot in certain decks and can definitely squeeze out games. It's going to be interesting to see how many purple decks we see actually run this card. But this Secret Rare Luffy is such a beautiful card, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
From the effect to the artwork, and it has a manga for this card, which is pretty insane. Let's go ahead and go to the next color. We're going to be going over the black cards. So now we're getting into more Sakazuki territory, this leader being so good. And these 2 cards are probably the biggest reason. We went over the blue cards that have a pretty decent effect. But here, this Rebecca just has an insane amount of plays, right? So I'm going to go ahead and put a Hina right above me. You guys are going to see a Hina. This card can be played with the Rebecca, right? So with Sakazuki, you cycle a card, you put the Hina into your trash. Now you can play this Rebecca, grab that same Hina, and then on top of that, you play it, Dawn minus, or you cost minus with that Hina. Now you have a blocker on board. You have a 3/5 body on board. You did -4 to something on your board's unit. And then let's go back to this Lucci here, where he does a KO effect. So this Lucci is going to, you have to have 3 cards in trash to use this effect. You KO up to one of your opponents costs 2 or less, and up to one of your opponents costs 1 or less. So it gets 2 units to KO. And then this Rebecca, you grab a 3 to 7 cost from your hand, or from the trash to your hand, then you play a cost 3 or less from your hand, right? So that's where the combo comes into play. This Rebecca can get you this Hina that I just showed you guys. Set up a play for this Rob Lucci. You play this Rob Lucci, now you KO'd your opponent's board. This combo here is way too broken. If anything happens to Sakazuki, I'm definitely going to go off on a limb and say it's going to be one of these 2 that get hit. These cards are insane. What are your comments on this?
Yeah, would not be surprised if these got banned, but I don't think they're going to, just because we are going to be going to nationals and worlds soon, where it is going to be in the OP05 meta. And I think it would be a bit strange if either Japan had to conform to our meta where we have restrictions, or we had to randomly conform to their meta where we don't have restrictions. Because in one of the two cases, somebody's going to be out of practice, and it's not going to be fair. But just going over the card specifically, yeah, Lucci is completely broken. He's probably the main issue with
The
Sakazuki
main culprit.
because, yeah, exactly. Because KOing two large characters per turn with while generating a 4/6 stat line is absolutely insane. Um, he is totally a problem, and it's really hard to play around him
Hmm.
because there's really like if the Sakazuki player has the combo, right? You have the Ice Age, you have the Rebecca. I mean, there's nothing you can do. And this deck plays blockers, so it's not like you can just like not play units and swing leader. And this is why this deck's so strong. There's just no way to play around these insanely strong cards. Speaking of Rebecca as well, a 4 cost blocker with counter that is drawing you a card, playing you a card that's usually a 5K body while minusing 4. Um, Disgusting. Also from trash, so you can choose which one you want. It's not just like a random draw.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think these cards are just way too overtuned.
Yeah.
And this is why the blue black Sakazuki archetype is an issue. You will be seeing these guys a lot, and you will be, if you want these two alt arts, you will be paying a lot for them.
Yeah, I could very well have seen this Rob Lucci be a four cost 4,000 power stat line for an effect like that, if you want my honest opinion, and then maybe give it like 1,000 counter.
Sure.
But a 4/6 and still having an effect like that is kind of insane. Not sure what they were thinking when they were making this card, but definitely it is now running our meta, so we're gonna have to get used to it and learn how to either play it or play around it, which you can't. So let's go ahead and go to the next color here. So we have Anel and El Thor that we're going to be looking at for yellow. So let's go ahead and read over the first card. It is going to be a 7 cost, 7,000 power Anel with Rush. Once per turn, if this character would leave the field, you may trash one card from the top of your life instead. And then there's like a little cheeky side note. It says, if there is a Monkey D. Luffy character, this effect is negated. And I think that has to do with the lore and basically what their abilities are, which we won't get into. This Anel here is a great card for the fact that if you're playing against the Sakazuki, which we just talked about so much, it has the option to trash top life and stay on the field. And now your opponent is either going to need to have another form of removal or swing into it, which might not always be the easiest. I think this card here is a great counter to Sakazuki, making them use their resources, and then you just trash a life.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, you're a Nell. You're going to get that life back in multiple turns.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
not to mention, I mean, it has rush, right? You played it and it already swung. It
Mm-hmm.
already got value.
Yep.
If Sakazuki wants to remove it, you already attacked with this card. So even if they do remove it, it's not the biggest deal in the world. That's why rush cards are good against Sakazuki, because you don't just play them and then they're dead, because you basically wasted Dawn at that point because they're developing a 4/6 while removing your unit at the same time. This one going to have already swung, also countering any removal, by the way. So bottom decks, KO, whatever they want to do to this card. If you are in a good spot to do it, you can just trash that life and save this card for next turn.
Yeah. And then obviously here on the other end, we have El Thor, which is up to one of your leaders, gains a plus 2,000 power during this battle. Then if your opponent has two or less life cards, they get an additional 2,000 power for this battle. And then it says trigger KO to one of your opponent's characters with cost or equal to less than the number of your opponent's life cards. So not the best trigger, but such a great defensive tool here. This is basically yellow's radical beam, and so cards like this being introduced into the meta really give me hope that rad beam and Newgate and all those cards get unrestricted, because if yellow has a free rad beam, I mean red should get its back, right? But this card here is such a powerhouse when it comes to defensive ability for decks like Anel, decks like Katakuri, which in general don't have much defense to them. besides their counter cards. And so I think this is a great addition to yellow, and it's definitely going to be ran a lot in many yellow decks.
Yeah, and I don't know if we mentioned, but there was I think the only yellow player that ever won a championship series was towards the end. It was a Katakuri player, and he was running 4 of this card. Just showing you that yeah, this card is a 4 of staple in yellow from this point on.
Yeah,
just a 1-cost rad beam, right? Late into the game, you guys are both going to be at 2 life or less, right? So this card's always a 1 for 4, which is very strong. The trigger can come in handy sometimes if you hit it early. That is not to be underestimated. But yeah, just the 4 of, it's another rad beam. I think green is actually getting rad beam as well in OP06 with that new 1-cost plus 4K if you have 8 or more rested cards. They might end up printing this for every color. We'll see. But its strength is not to be underestimated. This card is fantastic. A 4 of staple in every yellow deck from this point on.
Yeah, 100%. I think that is very, very crucial for decks to have these very good defensive tools, because for the most part, we don't see many defensive options. I think the best would probably be like blue and purple in terms of like, and maybe green, but yellow definitely is lacking in the defensive department, and then red as well, because rad beam got restricted. Otherwise, it would be up there. But for the most part, I think cards like this are very healthy for the game, and there should definitely be one for every color eventually, right? All right, Pirates, thank you guys so much for watching this video. As you guys can see right there on the screen, go ahead and subscribe to our channel. We are basically at 2,000 subscribers. We could not do this without you guys. We thank you guys so much every time. We appreciate you guys. We love you guys. Make sure to comment down below, like this video, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We daily upload. We'll see you guys on the next video. You guys have a good day. Peace.